gas blowout was going strongly, one of my favorite things was that a bunch of law firms were coming to town, because that meant thousands of people were turning out to meetings, and what better place to get petition signatures than at these types of events. And I was so fortunate one night to have the ability to speak when Robert Kennedy was on stage, and that was so incredible. I just got to get up there and talk about Shut It Down. But then Robert Kennedy Jr., he really just knocked it out of the park. And he loves to go after Governor Brown, who we know. Sort of like doing my job for me. I've been bird dogging Governor Brown for years on the fracking issue. And when you have someone like Robert Kennedy Jr. getting up there and really telling it like it is, how our government is bought off by these huge corporations, it's such a breath of fresh air. So I want to welcome to the stage Robert Kennedy Jr., who has been such an advocate for this community. Thank you so much for everything that you've done, all the fire and passion that you've brought to this fight.
Excuse my voice, but this is what makes things happen, which is these very talented, passionate local advocates. It's the only thing that ever makes change happen. Is democracy and people at a grassroots level who are willing to stand up and speak truth to power. We have it with the really amazing group that you're so fortunate to have in this community. I want to just say a word about Henry, who is one of the things that really gives me hope that we're going to get a good outcome here, because he means what he says. I've known him since he was a little boy. I get it, and his parents have been, are well-known environmentalists. His father's a famous actor who's been a supporter of NRDC since its founding days, and his mother is an extraordinary advocate as well, and they both walk the walk and talk the talk, and they're great. But Henry's an extraordinary leader. He's going to be a great leader in this state. And he is on our side, which is really unusual these days. And he's, as you can see, he's very gifted, and but he also means what he says. He's gifted. My kids went to the same public school as he went to, but he was the first kid in the history of that public school to go to Harvard Law School and Harvard. And he's a really, really talented guy, and he's a great, great advocate. Oh, and I also want to recognize Patricia Oliver, who a lot of you know, who's my law partner, and who is doing I get a lot of the credit for what we're doing on border arrangement. She's actually doing all the work. So. In the weeds, getting her hands dirty, and she is your advocate. She is the person who's really fighting the day-to-day battle, and then telling the big shots what to do with their time. And she is also an amazing advocate for this community. I love listening to Henry, and one of the metaphors that he used was the metaphor of addiction, which is really apt in this case, because Southern California gas reminds me of a full-blown heroin addict in withdrawal, begging and threatening and blackmailing and saying, "You can't live without me. You need me. Life is an end if you give up on me." And what they say about addicts is that they need tough love, and you're giving them we're telling them, no, you don't need that stuff anymore. We don't need you. Yeah, there may be a difficult transition. It's called cold turkey, but afterwards, it's a very bright future after all that stuff in a way that you can't imagine. Life without addiction to this oil. And Henry was at my house this morning, and he was talking about this group. council seats who were against it, who were conciliatory and like, that we need the gas company, they're our friends, and we need to be nice to them and all of this stuff. And that you said no, no, we don't have to do that. And if that's the way you feel, then you should not be holding public office in this community. And you reclaimed your democracy. And Henry actually told me, and I got to tell you this when he probably doesn't want to, he said to me, we need to help these people. We need to figure out ways to help them get funding and help make them succeed. He wouldn't say that to you here, but he wants, this is his group, and he's on your side. And I'm so excited. I get calls maybe every day from politicians from the presidential race on down to do work on their campaigns. And I took a vow that this year I was not going to do any work for any politician. Because I have family stuff that I need to take care of. One fundraiser that I did this year, and usually I give about 40 or 50 this time of year. The one I did was for Henry. But the other metaphor that, the other thing that he said when he was talking about democracy, about reclaiming democracy. And people don't understand how intertwined the issue of the environment and democracy are. And I do, because I've been in this battlefield for more than 3 decades, fighting in the coal fields of West Virginia and in Cancer Alley in Louisiana, and against the pipelines of the Pacific Northwest and the XL pipeline, where I got arrested and went to jail. And I've been in jail in Puerto Rico for a whole summer. Maximum security prison for fighting these issues. But anywhere you see large-scale environmental injury, you're also going to see the subversion of democracy. You're going to see the corruption of public officials. And I worked so many times with Jerry Brown on so many issues, and he's been our partner and friends. He was the visionary. He was the green governor. And it's such a horrible disappointment for me to see the way that he has sold his soul to the vigilante. But that's the power that they have. I'm sure in his brain, he's not just doing a quid pro quo. He has some kind of rationale that I'm going to get something big in the long run from them.
Another drug.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Some more drugs. And that's sad, but that's what they do. And I've seen it everywhere, and seen it with Democrats and Republicans. The governor of West Virginia, whose father was my uncle, President Kennedy's campaign manager in the 1960 election, critical political figure for my family. Helped us win the state of West Virginia. And I've ended up suing him, and he publicly disparages me, calls me names, and all this other stuff, because he had to sell his soul to the car. And he sees what it's done to his state. He sees that the mountaintops have been cut down. This, the Purple Mountains Majesty, which had been torn up by the roots, and then every stream in that state is now contaminated with deadly contaminants. Whole cities have been poisoned. And by the way, when I was a kid, there were 115,000 coal miners in West Virginia. Now there's 9,000, and it's not because of environmental rules. It's because of this merciless industry, which has mechanized and put them out of work and replaced underground miners with giant machines that cut down the whole mountain and throw them into the local rivers. It's all illegal, but the only way they can do it, the only way people can pollute and get away with what this company like SoCalGas is by violating the laws. It's not legal to pollute in this country. What they did to you is illegal. You're not allowed to poison people. You're not allowed to